In this video, we're going to be addressing the hip musculature. We're going to work on hip abduction, hip adduction, and hip extension. Outer, inner, and posterior part of the hip. Addressing these hip muscles can help benefit your knees or your ankles, anything below the hip, because we have more stability through the hip joint. It lessens the stress in other joints, as well as above the hip in the trunk and in the spine. Hopefully these four exercises will help you become more stable, will feel better, and help you move better. This first exercise is called hip hikes. Very simple. You want to find something to put down on the floor that's at least probably 2 or 3 inches off the floor, and you want to place your stance leg, which is my right leg right here, on the prop. And from here, you're just going to drop the hip down and back up. So what we're doing here, we're hiking that opposite hip up. And so what we're doing is we're focusing on these hip abductors outside this right hip of mine. Dropping down and back up. Keeping nice, good alignment through the whole body, up and back down. Perform that 10, 15, 20 reps, nice and slow, and just feel the outer hip working. Both sides. Okay? This exercise is also going to address those hip abductors, the outside of the hip. Here you want to have your stance leg, will be my left leg, with the band wrapped around my right ankle. Okay? It's great if you can have a loop band attached to something to do this. If you need to, you can also attach the band around the opposite ankle. From here, I'm going to push straight out and back. Now the great thing about this exercise here is we're working these hip abductors on my left side, but my stance leg, I'm also working those left hip abductor muscles just by stabilizing my body as I do this. So this is like 2-in-1 exercise here, both hip abductors being worked. And doing this as well, 10, 15 repetition, nice and slow, out and back in slowly. This next exercise is going to address the hip adductors, the inner part of your thigh. So my stance leg is going to be my right leg here. I'm going to have the band wrapped around my left ankle. And you can just stand on the ground with this right leg and then straighten your left leg and just move it slightly in front of your right foot. And from here, you're going to just push across. Now your range of motion is going to be limited because of this right leg getting in the way. So what I say do here is go across, feel that inside that left thigh contracting, hold it, and then move back out, and then back in. So this is going to be more of an isometric. Kind of keeps that muscle engaged more since there's a very small range of motion in this exercise. Across, and then back to the start, and push across. Once again, focus on keeping the pelvis stable and your body as still as possible. This exercise is going to address the hip extensors, those muscles on the back part of the hip, which pretty much everybody knows about the glutes and the hamstrings. So you want to find something you can hold yourself stable, keep your balance. My left foot is going to be elevated slightly off the ground to allow this right leg, which is going to be the one moving, to move freely back and forth. Once again, I have a band attached around my right ankle, and from here, I'm going to push straight back and then back forward. Going back, trying to focus on the hamstrings and the glutes. And you can lean forward slightly, which helps kind of accentuate that motion. Bringing in those glutes and hamstrings, nice and slow on the way back, and then forward, and stopping before you lose all your tension, and back. And doing that somewhere between 10 and 15 repetitions.